You are about to view a factual representation of our legal battles. There is no commentary here, just unfiltered, unedited, and raw footage. We are taking you straight to the front lines of justice to observe the system exactly as it operates.
Sir, stand up and step away from the table, now.
I'm waiting for my flight. What's the problem?
You've been reported. Show me proof you belong in this lounge.
Reported for what, exactly?
I scanned in at the desk. Verify it.
Don't tell me how to do my job.
Hands where I can see them.
Sir, I need you to stand up and step away from the table. I am waiting for my flight. Is there a problem? You have been reported. Please gather your things now. Reported for what exactly? It was 8:12 a.m. inside the Horizon Executive Lounge at Jackson International Airport. The room smelled like burnt espresso and citrus cleaner. A wall of glass looked out over the tarmac where planes idled in gray morning fog. Business travelers murmured into phones. Cutlery clicked softly against porcelain plates. Everything was calm, controlled, expensive. At the center of the room sat a black man in his mid-40s, navy blazer, open collar, laptop open, phone placed carefully to the right, boarding pass folded once precise. He had been sitting there for less than 15 minutes. The airport security officer stood rigid beside him, one hand near his radio, the other gripping a laminated badge that gave him authority in this space. His jaw was tight, his voice clipped. "Sir, this is a private lounge. I need to see proof that you belong here." The man slowly closed his laptop. He did not rush. He did not raise his voice. "I scanned in at the desk. You can confirm that." The officer did not move toward the desk. He did not ask the attendant. His eyes stayed locked on the man's face, then dropped briefly to his hands, then back again. "I am asking you to cooperate." "I am cooperating. I am asking what rule I have broken." A few heads turned. A woman 2 tables away paused mid-sip. A man near the windows angled his phone slightly, not obvious, but ready. The officer pressed the radio clip to his shoulder. "Security to lounge. I need backup." That was the moment the temperature changed. Chairs shifted. Conversations thinned. The quiet luxury of the room cracked open with tension. Backup meant escalation. Backup meant suspicion had hardened into something else. Sir remained seated until additional officers arrive. "Am I being detained?" "You are being investigated." "Investigated for sitting in an airport lounge." The man leaned back slightly. He looked around not in fear, but in recognition. He had seen this posture before. He had seen how quickly assumptions replaced facts. "I have done nothing wrong. That will be determined." 2 more officers entered within seconds. One stood near the exit. One positioned himself behind the seated man. A subtle triangle. Containment. The lounge attendant finally spoke, her voice hesitant. "He checked in like everyone else. His name is on the list." The first officer did not turn around. "Sir, stand up now." The man stood, slowly, every movement deliberate. He adjusted his blazer. He picked up his phone. He did not reach for his wallet yet. Around them, phones were out now. No one said a word. In that moment, surrounded by uniforms, accused without cause, the man looked the officer directly in the eyes. "You are making a serious mistake." The officer answered without hesitation. "We will see about that." This was no longer about lounge access. This was about power perception and a decision that could not be taken back. Before anyone in that lounge knew his name, before the radios crackled and assumptions hardened, the man standing calmly near the table had already lived several lifetimes of pressure. His name was Daniel Mercer. 22 years earlier, he had walked into his first federal building with a borrowed suit and a knot in his stomach. He was 23, freshly recruited into a federal task force, after finishing at the top of his class in criminal justice and behavioral analysis. His mother had cried that morning, not from pride, but fear. She knew what federal service meant for a black man: long hours, invisible danger, no margin for error. Daniel learned quickly that competence was not enough. He learned to speak slower in meetings, to document everything twice, to never raise his voice even when others did. Early in his career, he worked organized crime cases that stretched across state lines. Surveillance vans at 3 in the morning, wiretap rooms that smelled like cold pizza and burnt coffee. He watched colleagues burn out marriages, fail, health collapse. He stayed. After 9 years, he was assigned to counterintelligence. The work became quieter and more dangerous. No arrests, no headlines, just patterns, anomalies, threats that could never be allowed to surface. He testified behind closed doors. He briefed people whose names never appeared on paper. He signed non-disclosure agreements that followed him home in his sleep. Promotion came slowly. Too slowly. Every evaluation praised his precision, his calm judgment, his leadership under pressure. Yet the positions went to others first, less experienced, louder, more comfortable in rooms where he was still the only black face. Daniel never complained. He adapted. By year 18, he was overseeing multiple regional teams, a senior supervisor trusted with internal oversight and external coordination. He trained agents half his age. He corrected mistakes quietly. He carried the weight of decisions that affected lives he would never meet. That morning at the airport, he was traveling to brief a joint task group. Nothing flashy, no entourage, no announcement, just a boarding pass and a laptop full of classified preparation notes. He had chosen the lounge because it was quiet, because it was neutral ground. Across the city, the man who called for backup had a very different history. Officer Mark Harlan had been with airport security for 11 years. Long enough to feel untouchable. Long enough to believe that his instincts mattered more than procedures. His record looked clean on paper. No terminations, no suspensions. But tucked into internal logs were complaints that never went anywhere. A traveler detained too long. A tone described as aggressive. A supervisor note suggesting bias awareness training. Nothing sustained. Nothing serious enough to follow him. Harlan liked order. He liked predictability. He believed that people who belonged in certain spaces looked a certain way, moved a certain way. When he was new, he followed the rules closely. Over time, he started trusting his gut more than checklists. In his mind, that gut had kept him safe. That morning, when the desk attendant flagged a concern about a guest, it was vague. Someone uncomfortable. Someone questioning whether a man should be there. No violation cited. No disruption reported. Harlan walked into the lounge already convinced something was off. He saw Daniel before Daniel saw him. Saw a black man seated alone, working confident. Not nervous. Not deferential. That confidence registered as defiance. Harlan did not verify the check-in. He did not ask the attendant again. He did not consider that discomfort was not evidence. He saw a challenge. When Daniel spoke calmly, when he asked for clarity, it did not de-escalate the situation. It escalated it. In Harlan's world, people who belonged did not question authority. They complied. Calling backup felt natural, protective, justified. What Harlan did not know was that Daniel had supervised federal investigations into abuse of authority. He had reviewed footage like this from the other side. He had written internal memos that ended careers. And still standing there, Daniel chose restraint, because he knew how quickly situations like this could turn. He knew that being right did not mean being safe. He knew that in public spaces, dignity was a fragile thing easily stripped, rarely restored. Two men, two histories, two completely different understandings of power. They collided in a room full of strangers who could feel it but did not yet understand it. This was not random. This was not unfortunate. This was inevitable. The moment the second officer stepped into the lounge, people knew this was no longer routine. He positioned himself near the exit, blocking it without saying a word. The third officer stayed close behind Daniel, close enough that Daniel could feel the shift in air when he moved. A practiced formation. Control without contact. Daniel remained standing. His hands were visible, empty, relaxed at his sides. "I would like to speak to a supervisor," he said calmly. Officer Harlan exhaled through his nose. His jaw tightened. "You are already speaking to security." That answer was deliberate. It was meant to close the conversation. Daniel reached slowly into his blazer. Not his pocket, the inside fold. He pulled out a slim leather credential holder and held it at chest level, not extended, not waved. "I am a federal employee traveling on official business. I am requesting clarification for this detention." Harlan glanced at the credential for less than a second. "Put that away." The dismissal was immediate, automatic. "Sir, this is not the time. You were asked to comply?" "I am complying. I am also documenting." The word documenting landed hard. A man near the windows raised his phone fully now. No more pretending. The red recording dot was visible. A woman whispered something under her breath. Another passenger shifted closer, pretending to refill coffee while angling for a better view. Harlan stepped forward half a pace. "You do not get to dictate procedure here." Daniel nodded once. Not submissive, not defiant, controlled. "Then please explain it." Silence. Harlan did not explain. He did not articulate a rule. He did not cite a policy. He simply reached for his radio again. Lounge security has an uncooperative subject, requesting supervisor presence. Uncooperative. That word traveled fast through the room. It always did. Daniel felt it. He had heard it used in reports and testimony in rooms where careers were decided. He knew how it framed the narrative before facts ever entered. A lounge attendant finally spoke louder this time, voice shaking. Sir, he scanned properly. He is cleared. I remember his name. Harlan did not acknowledge her. Ma'am, please return to your station. The crowd reacted to that. A few audible sighs. Someone muttered, "This is ridiculous." Another phone appeared, then another. Daniel looked around the room. He made eye contact with the man recording and gave a single, slow nod. Keep recording. Harlan saw it. That nod felt like a challenge. In his mind, the situation was slipping. Too many eyes. Too much doubt. Authority questioned in public. The worst possible scenario for someone who believed control equaled respect. Harlan stepped closer. Sir, you are being detained for failure to follow security instructions. Am I free to leave? No. On what basis? On my authority. There it was. No statute, no regulation, just power. Daniel inhaled slowly through his nose. He could feel his heartbeat in his ears. Not fear, calculation. He knew escalation could come next. Hands, walls, cuffs. He adjusted his stance, feet planted, voice steady. I am not resisting. I am not threatening. I am requesting lawful justification. Harlan's face flushed. You are making this worse for yourself. The supervisor arrived seconds later. A white man in his 50s, tie slightly loose, expression already annoyed. What seems to be the issue? Before Daniel could speak, Harlan answered. Suspicious individual refusing to comply. Possible misuse of credentials. The supervisor looked at Daniel for the first time. Took in the blazer, the posture, the calm. Sir, may I see your identification? Daniel handed it over without hesitation. The supervisor opened it. His eyes changed instantly. The room went quiet in a way that felt physical. The supervisor looked up slowly, then back down, then back up again. He swallowed. Sir, can you please confirm your position? Daniel met his gaze. Senior Supervisory Special Agent, Federal Bureau of Investigation. The supervisor closed the credential holder carefully, as if it were fragile. Officer Harlan shifted behind him. Sir, is there a problem? The supervisor did not answer right away. Phones were still recording. The crowd was still watching. And in that suspended moment, the entire story pivoted. The supervisor did not hand the credential back right away. Instead, he took a step back. Just one. Small. But everyone saw it. Officer Harlan noticed too. Sir, I asked if there was a problem. The supervisor cleared his throat. He glanced around the lounge. At the phones. At the quiet. At the fact that this was no longer a private correction, but a public record. We need to step away from the floor, he said. Daniel nodded. That would be appropriate. Harlan stiffened. He has been non-compliant. The supervisor finally turned to him. His voice was low but sharp. That will be addressed. Daniel was guided toward a side corridor, not in cuffs, but not free either. The officers walked close on both sides, not touching. Yet, a formation that sent a message. As they moved, the lounge stayed silent. No applause, no comments, just cameras following. The corridor smelled different. Industrial cleaner. Cold air. The hum of ventilation. Each step echoed. Daniel felt it then. Not anger, not fear. The weight of being moved without consent. The subtle violence of being treated as a problem to be relocated. At the security office door, the supervisor paused. Sir, please wait inside while we clarify this. Clarify what? The supervisor did not answer. The door closed behind Daniel with a soft click. Not a slam. Worse than a slam. Inside the room was small. Gray walls. A metal table. 2 plastic chairs bolted to the floor. A camera in the corner with a blinking light. Daniel stood for a moment before sitting. He placed his phone face down on the table. He noted the time on the wall clock. 8:26 a.m. Outside the door, voices bled through, muffled, controlled, but tense. He heard Harlan. I followed procedure. Procedure requires verification. He heard the supervisor again. Why did you call backup before checking the manifest? Pause. Then Harlan quieter. He did not look right. That sentence landed like a verdict. Inside the room, Daniel closed his eyes briefly. Not to calm himself, to remember. He remembered briefing rooms where those same words were dissected. He remembered case files where that logic destroyed credibility. He remembered telling young agents that discomfort was not evidence. Now he was on the other side of the table. Minutes passed, each one heavy. The door opened again. 2 new figures entered. Airport police this time. Different uniforms. Different authority. One of them carried a tablet. Sir, we need you to place your hands on the table. Daniel did not move. Am I under arrest? No. Then why am I being confined? The officer hesitated. Just long enough. Standard procedure. Daniel slowly placed his hands flat on the table. Palms down, fingers spread. He knew this posture. He had seen it countless times. Metal cuffs came out anyway. The sound was unmistakable. A dry metallic click. Final. Public. Hold on, the supervisor said from the doorway. We are just securing the situation, the officer replied. The cuff closed around Daniel's left wrist. Cold. Tight. The second followed. Daniel looked down at them, then up. For the first time since this began, his voice changed. You are making this exponentially worse. No one responded. The camera light blinked steadily. Recording? In the corridor, someone whispered, Is he in cuffs now? The injustice was complete, not because of the metal, but because of the certainty. Certainty that had never been earned. The cuffs stayed on longer than anyone expected. Long enough for paperwork to start. Long enough for radios to chirp outside the door. Long enough for the situation to move past embarrassment and into liability. At 8:34 a.m., the door opened again. This time, the man who stepped inside did not wear airport security. His suit was dark, federal dark. No badge on display, just posture. Authority without performance. The room changed instantly. Everyone stood except Daniel. He stayed seated, cuffed, calm. Who authorized this detention, the man asked. No one answered at first. The supervisor cleared his throat. We had a security concern. The man's eyes moved to Daniel's wrists. The metal. The redness already forming. Is that so? He pulled a credential from his inner pocket and placed it on the table. Not toward Daniel, toward the officers. Assistant Director, Federal Bureau of Investigation. The air went thin. He turned to Daniel. Sir, I am deeply sorry. This should not have happened. Daniel nodded once. It should not have progressed. The assistant director turned back to the room. Remove the cuffs, now. The officer hesitated for half a second, then complied. The metal opened. Daniel flexed his fingers slowly. Blood returned in waves. The assistant director did not raise his voice. He did not need to. I want a full explanation. Names, times, decisions. Starting from the moment he scanned into the lounge. Harlan stood frozen near the wall. His face had drained of color. He stared at the floor. The supervisor spoke instead. His words stumbled. There was a report, a concern. We acted cautiously. Cautiously does not involve handcuffs without probable cause. Silence. Daniel stood. He adjusted his cuffs. The blazer sat differently now. Creased, marked. I am Daniel Mercer, he said evenly. Senior Supervisory Special Agent. Badge number available upon request. I was detained, confined, and restrained without cause while traveling on official duty. The assistant director nodded. I am aware. He turned to Harlan. Officer, did you verify his credentials before escalation? Harlan swallowed. No, sir. Did you confirm lounge access? No, sir. Did you articulate a violation? Harlan shook his head. Then why did you call backup? Harlan's voice cracked. He did not look right. The assistant director stared at him. Define that. Harlan could not. Outside the room, word had spread. Airport operations had been notified. Legal had been looped in. Someone had already pulled the lounge access logs. Someone else was downloading security footage. Daniel could hear it happening. The machinery of accountability. Slow, inevitable. The assistant director stepped closer to Daniel. Sir, you are free to go. Transportation and accommodations will be arranged immediately. A formal apology will follow in writing. Daniel met his eyes. This is bigger than me. The assistant director nodded again. Yes, it is. He turned back to the others. This incident is now a federal matter. Harlan's knees buckled slightly. He caught himself on the wall. For the first time that morning, he understood the full weight of what he had done. Not just to a man, but to his own future. The fallout did not wait for the flight to land. By 10:03 a.m., the first video hit social media. A 30-second clip, slightly shaky, shot from behind a coffee station. Clear enough to show uniforms. Clear enough to show Daniel's hands. Clear enough to hear one sentence. You do not look like you belong here. Within an hour, the clip crossed 1 million views. By noon, there were 5 angles. The narrative formed fast. Faster than any internal report ever could. Black man detained in airport lounge. Backup called. Cuffed. Turns out he is senior FBI leadership. The outrage was immediate and precise. Civil rights attorneys began tagging the airport authority. Journalists requested comment. Congressional staffers forwarded links with single-line emails. We need answers. By that evening, the airport issued a statement. Vague, procedural, regretful, but careful. An investigation was announced. It was too late for caution. Daniel did not give interviews. He did not post statements. He forwarded everything to counsel. The lawsuit was filed 11 days later. Unlawful detention, false imprisonment, violation of civil rights under color of authority, racial profiling, failure to train, failure to supervise. The complaint was meticulous. Time-stamped. Sourced. Each action mapped against policy and federal law. Video evidence was attached. The defense lasted 3 weeks. Internal investigation records surfaced next. Officer Harlan's name appeared again and again. Prior complaints, similar language, same pattern, dismissed, minimized, ignored. The airport authority reached for settlement before discovery ended. The number never became public. It did not need to. What became public was consequence. Officer Harlan was terminated, not reassigned, not suspended, fired, cause cited, no appeal supported by the union. His badge was surrendered, his access revoked. The supervisor was demoted, training failures documented, command authority removed. The airport authority entered a federal compliance agreement. Mandatory bias auditing, external oversight, revised detention protocols, mandatory documentation before escalation. Daniel declined personal compensation beyond damages. Instead, he demanded policy change. And he got it. 6 months later, airport training modules included footage from that morning. Every officer required to watch it, required to pause at the moment backup was called, required to explain why. The video ended where it mattered. The cuffs, the silence, the mistake. Daniel returned to work. Same title, same responsibilities. One difference. When he briefed teams now, he added a line at the end. Discomfort is not intelligence. Suspicion is not evidence. Authority without discipline is liability. Officer Harlan did not return to public service. His name became a case study, and the lounge returned to quiet. But it was a quieter that remembered. What happened in that airport lounge was not a misunderstanding. It was not poor communication. It was not a matter of tone. It was a violation. Under federal law, a detention requires articulable facts tied to a legitimate security concern. Discomfort does not qualify. A vague report does not qualify. A feeling does not qualify. Once Daniel Mercer scanned into the lounge and presented no disruptive behavior, the legal threshold for continued detention collapsed. Calling backup without verification transformed a customer service issue into a seizure. Confining him to a secondary room escalated it into false imprisonment. Applying handcuffs without probable cause crossed into a clear civil rights violation. None of that required hindsight to see. The policies already existed. The failure was not legal ignorance. It was selective enforcement. Social psychology explains why. Implicit bias does not announce itself. It disguises itself as instinct, as caution, as professionalism. It narrows perception until only threat is visible and context disappears. In authority-driven environments, that bias gains teeth. Power removes hesitation, uniforms remove doubt, and systems often protect those who act first and justify later. This is why documentation matters, why witnesses matter, why recording matters. If you are ever in a situation like this, stay calm. Keep your hands visible. Ask clear questions. Am I being detained? On what basis? Who is the supervisor? If legal record. Do not argue facts in the moment. Preserve them. If you witness it, do not intervene physically. Document. Announce that you are recording. Timestamps matter. Names matter. Silence protects misconduct. Light exposes it. Daniel Mercer did nothing extraordinary that morning. He followed the law. He asserted his rights without aggression. He trusted the process. What changed the outcome was not his title. It was accountability. The lesson is simple. Belonging is not proven by appearance. Authority is not validated by instinct. And justice does not arrive by accident. It arrives when systems are forced to confront their own reflection.
Welcome. Our objective is clear: to pursue the truth and hold established power to account. We follow the paper trail because the official records never lie. Thank you for watching and seeking the facts with us.